In this video, you're going to learn 3 tips that you can use to stop playing so tight as an athlete. Hey there, I'm Eli Straw, mental game coach and the founder of SuccessStartsWithin.com. And before we get into this video, if you're an athlete looking to improve your mental game, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because I put out new videos each day on sports psychology and mental training. Now, why do you play tight as an athlete? There are 3 main reasons that we can point to as to why you play tight. Number 1 is fear. You're afraid of making mistakes. Number 2 is anxiety. You're anxious over what's going to happen. And number 3 is low confidence. If you don't trust in yourself, it's a lot more difficult to play freely. But to perform your best, you need to be able to perform freely. You need to be able to just go out there and play rather than playing tight and holding yourself back. So tip number 1 is you want to practice relaxing into the moment. This means just being able to relax into what you're doing, allowing the outcomes to happen, and just relax and focus on the here and now. Now, how can you actually do that? That's a really great thing to say, but what can you actually do in the moment during a game when you're feeling really tight to get yourself to relax? The simplest thing you can do is focus on your breath. Anytime you turn your attention to your breath, really take deep breaths, that's going to help relax yourself into the moment, and that can help you just calm your whole body down and play less tight. Number 2 is you want to be making use of mental preparation. This is going to have a lot to do with your confidence. So we want to make sure that going into a game, you are as confident as you can be. To do this, you can use some visualization, which means you mentally rehearse your skills, right? So you visualize yourself shooting a basketball. You visualize yourself hitting. You visualize yourself hitting the tennis ball, performing your serves. You visualize yourself running. Anything within your sport that you want to improve your confidence at, you can use visualization for. Now I'm going to put a card right here to a video I made that goes more in depth on some visualization techniques that you can use as an athlete. So that's one way that you can focus on preparing mentally. Another way is you can use something known as a self-talk routine. Self-talk refers to the thoughts that you have going into a game, during a game, or just at any time, right? It's the way that you think. Whenever you're playing tight, a lot of times your thoughts are going to be of fear, of anxiety, and of self-doubt. You want to change that. You want to be thinking thoughts that lead to you feeling more calm and relaxed, but you also want to be thinking thoughts that are causing you to feel more confident. Once again, I'll put a link right here to a video I made that goes into more depth on some different ways that you can use self-talk as an athlete. And another way that you can focus on preparing mentally is doing some research on your opponent if that doesn't cause you to feel less confident. I've worked with athletes who both benefited from research and who didn't benefit from research. The ones who benefited from research, when they learned a little bit more about their opponent, that helped them feel more confident because then they realize there are some things that they can kind of exploit about their opponent. But you have to be careful because if you go into the realm of starting to think, oh my goodness, the people I'm going to play, they're so good, and it actually lowers your confidence, then you don't want to be doing that. But that's another way that you can focus on mentally preparing. And the more mentally prepared you are, typically the more confident you're going to be when you perform. And then tip number 3 is you want to stop focusing on the outcome. If you are struggling with fear, with anxiety, with low confidence, typically you're thinking about what's going to happen. With fear, you're probably afraid of making a mistake. You might say, I'm afraid of my coach's reaction, but your coach's reaction to making mistakes is what you're really afraid of. If you're anxious over what's going to happen. What's going to happen at the end of this play, what's going to happen at the end of your career, what's going to happen with your stats, what's going to happen at the end of this game. You start to worry about the what ifs, right? The future. If you have low confidence, your focus is typically going to be on how am I going to be able to play in this game? How am I going to do for this play? How am I going to do for this at bat? How am I going to do for this match? And you start to doubt your skills to succeed. The one thing all of those have in common is you are thinking about the outcome. Now, in sports, that's a very easy thing to do because you want a certain outcome. I don't think anybody's going out there, I guess unless you're throwing the season, to lose. You're going out there to play your best and you're going out there to win. But if you find yourself playing tight, focusing on wanting to win, focusing on wanting to play well, a lot of times that's actually doing more harm than good. So what can you do instead? Well, you turn your attention onto the little things that lead to you performing well. This is known as focusing more on the process. You want to focus more on the small aspects of your game that you know, if I focus on this, if I do this really well, that's going to lead to me performing well. So you still are wanting to perform well because that's not something that you're ever really going to be able to let go of. But you're not focusing on that outcome. You're not focusing on the fact that you need to do well while you're playing. you're focusing on the small aspects of the process that will give you the best position to perform well. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. We put out new videos each week on sports psychology and mental training. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you're interested in learning more about one-on-one mental performance coaching, head over to successstartswithin.com.